I don't know why I'm so nervous to do this video. I think it's because I haven't done a video in so long. Ooh, what am I doing? Okay. Hi everyone, it has been a while since I last posted. I believe it's been at least a few months. Honestly, just with everything going on in the world with coronavirus and all the protests and all of that, my heart has really been hurting. Being an empathetic person, seeing so many other people in pain and hurting, it just tends to really get to me. So most of the time I will just have to really disconnect. I actually just got Instagram back and I wiped out my entire list of people. I've just really been trying to make a lot of changes, and I don't know, just everything that's going on has impacted my mental health a lot. So I also have some good news. I am starting nursing school. So if you've been following my channel for a good while, then you know that becoming a nurse has always been a dream of mine. I remember visiting my dad when I was in high school when he was at work. It was just the two of us, so a lot of times he'd be working overtime and working night shifts and stuff. I would take some cupcakes and stuff like that and just hang out and just observe what he would do on the job, and I really learned how passionate he was for helping people. So I toured the school that I really wanted to go to back in 2015 when I was 19. I'm 24 now, and it just was not going to work out financially. There was an issue with financial aid, and so my husband and I decided that he was my boyfriend at the time, but my now husband and I decided that it just was not the right time for it. Probably gonna wait a couple years and then try again. But I did get accepted and I had a start date and everything. It just, financially, it was a mess. So fast forward about a year, maybe a year and a half, is when I started becoming symptomatic, and that just completely marks the beginning of my journey with chronic illness. And also the worsening of my mental health, unfortunately. So over the next couple years of having basically no answers for my health and being so severely exhausted and being very sick, I basically had to give up my dream of being a nurse, which was very hard for me, and it definitely took a toll on me mentally, along with trying to get my physical health back in order, or at least more controlled. I was also really trying to get my mental health back in order, and that was a struggle on its own, especially dealing with chronic illness and dealing with, all the life changes that chronic illness brings to you. It was very difficult. So basically I was just trying to manage on my own without antidepressants and without seeing a psychiatrist or anything like that, which I highly don't recommend. So basically I was trying to get my shit together. Obviously for more reasons than one of the main reasons being I wanted to be a nurse really bad. No matter how hard I tried to give up this dream, I just knew that's what I wanted to be. I've had jobs doing different things, I've looked into different careers, and for some reason I just cannot let go of nursing. I don't know why, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just what I meant to do, maybe it's why I'm here on earth, I have no clue. But regardless, it's just always in the back of my mind. But being a nurse when you're chronically ill, especially with multiple conditions, can be very, very difficult, often impossible for some people. So yeah, that is one of the main reasons why I was trying to get my health in order. And once I was placed on Bystolic last year, and I started to kind of see that the effects that it had on my fatigue and on my tachycardia and my blood pressure and all of that were going to stick around, and we can always up my dose, and it just didn't seem like it was just going to be a short-lived thing, feeling probably 80% better than I was the month before. It just kind of slowly started sparking that dream again, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it again. So I started looking into other positions in the medical field, like maybe a medical assistant, but to me personally, that just wouldn't be worth it for me. And then I started looking at dietitian, but I would have to physically be on campus for 4 years straight. And on top of that, you have to do an internship and different things. But with my life, I just did not want to put so many things on hold for such a long period of time. And that's kind of when I started realizing, okay, I am going to go to school, I am going to go to school for something that I'm at least a little bit passionate about, so obviously something in the medical field. But you know, looking at all of these different schools, looking at all of these different programs, I just couldn't shake it. I just started looking at, wow, I've had 4 or 5 months of feeling so much better than before. And we continue to find answers and find what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I know that chronic illness is going to be a lifelong journey. But if I'm going to be exhausted at the end of the workday, if I'm going to be, you know, busting my ass, basically, I wanted to do it for something that I'm passionate about. I want to be a nurse. So you would think that becoming ill would make me just not even want to be a nurse at all or want to pursue that dream anymore. But to be honest, being sick has made me so much more passionate about becoming a nurse for many reasons. One, oftentimes for women, especially who are chronically ill, doctors kind of just look at you and say, yeah, you're just depressed. Yeah, it's just anxiety. And I say just lightly, those are definitely serious conditions. I have had times where doctors and nurses and all kinds of people in the medical field just kind of looked down on me and maybe thought I was crazy or, you know, didn't believe me, and it kind of made me feel more alone. So I've definitely had to deal with the bad side of the medical field. And to be honest, it really pissed me off. You can't be in the medical field and be just a rude person. You can't be in the medical field and truly see the reason why you are in the medical field. If it's not to help people, if it's just for the money, then you don't belong there. And then on the other end of the spectrum, when I had my colonoscopy and endoscopy, this was back in January, I met 2 nurses who were just absolutely amazing. I still remember their names, and they were both the ones who were caring for me before and after both procedures. This was on 2 separate dates, and being my age and having to go in for a colonoscopy is like, I mean, it's scary for anybody, but like being in your mid-20s, just, I was scared, especially when you already have GI problems. It just kind of made me think that I was going to wake up covered in a mess. So I was just feeling really insecure and just super nervous. You could just tell that they're doing what they're meant to be doing, you know? They both really helped calm me down and were just so freaking awesome. I don't know how else to put it. They were amazing. And the fact that I'm sitting here 6 months later and remember just how warm and how giving they were is a huge deal. Not only that, but they both were very well aware of my conditions and how they affect me and how they could potentially affect the procedures that I was going into. Like with dysautonomia, I told them that I had to go to the clinic after one of the other procedures because I was in severe pain, and so I wasn't able to drink fluids for a couple days. I was having intestinal spasms. So what did they do? They looked into dysautonomia. They made sure to monitor my blood pressure extra to make sure that, you know, I'm standing up slowly when I was ready. They made sure to give me extra fluids afterwards. Like, they were just amazing. I don't know how else to put it. They were so great. So me being the patient for however many years now, what is it? We're going on like 4 years. For me to always be the patient for 4 years and now have the opportunity to be a nurse for somebody, I am just like in shock. I'm so grateful that I'm gonna have this opportunity, and I don't want to just be a nurse. I want to be that nurse, the nurse that somebody's gonna remember for a very long time, the nurse that somebody is going to look back on and just see kindness in their hearts, and the nurse that believes in their patients and, you know, does everything that they can to make them comfortable. So I just could not shake it off. Honestly, I probably need to send a thank you letter to those nurses just because they really are a main reason why I'm truly shooting for this now. So yeah, my husband and I started talking about this probably back in January. And up until a couple weeks ago when I posted about it, my husband and I were just really keeping it on the down low because, you know, life happens. I didn't want to bring it up if it possibly wasn't going to go the way that I wanted it to. But moving forward, there were 2 main things that I really wanted to get in order and get under control before I started school, which I start in July. So within those maybe 6 months, I really wanted to get these 2 things under control. One, my gastroparesis. At this time, it was definitely my most severe condition in the sense that I was pretty much always having a flare-up. So my symptoms were a lot more worse. I was always in pain, always extremely bloated. I was on medication just to use the restroom, always nauseous, just not feeling good. So I really wanted to get that at least more manageable, which I feel like we kind of have. I don't know if it's just luck or what we've been doing has been helping a lot. I'm still constantly bloated, and I've definitely been having more trouble in the restroom lately. But my nausea and my pain have subsided enough to where they're not that big of a distraction. If they are, I know what might be able to help, or at least that a certain amount of time is going to help that pass. But there are times where I will overeat, or I might eat the wrong thing on accident, because I'm still learning, Unfortunately, my doctor and I discussed my different treatment options, and medication wise, there's really nothing that they can do for me. So I just have to really try to manage it on my own, and if I end up losing too much weight or I'm really struggling, then I can give them a call and see what we can do. But the other thing that I really wanted to get under control was my mental health. Got to a point back in April where I had been basically stuck in the house for like a month and a half at least. Like literally did not even leave the house once because I was just too scared. I didn't know how my body would react if I were to end up with coronavirus because of my conditions. And then the fact that my husband's an essential worker, so if I were to get it, it would most likely be from him. So I kind of started to freak out. And there was this one time where my husband came home and I was just like crying my eyes out because I just could not handle being in the house alone all day. That is really bad for my mental health, I noticed, because I will just sit there and think, and it's just really toxic to me. Being home alone for like the weekend or maybe a couple of days is fine, but this was like a month and a half straight of being home alone all day long and just like dwelling. So I was depressed. My anxiety was at like an all-time high. But I ended up seeing my PCP about something, and I was sitting there on Facebook and I saw an article about someone, and he ended up with coronavirus. And unfortunately, with his Sjogren's and with another condition that he had, he ended up getting a major blood clot in his leg and losing his leg. That's the article that I was reading when I was sitting in my doctor's office, like literally waiting for like an hour and a half to be seen. My first time going out in public, pretty much. I was like terrified. So my doctor came in and she just could tell that I was just everywhere. Like I was so anxious, I was shaking. So she said, okay, we need to put you on a new anxiety medication. And I completely agreed. Now in the past I tried like 4 or 5 different antidepressants and they just didn't work for me. I always end up with a certain side effect. And this medication had less than a 5% chance of giving me that side effect. So I took it and I didn't have it, and I have been taking that medication ever since. I think we finally found the perfect medication for my mental health. I don't feel nearly as anxious. I don't just randomly get super anxious and angry for no reason. I don't sit there and worry all day. I feel so much more confident and I feel so much more like my old self, even with still having my everyday symptoms. And over the past few months, I've also really been trying to evaluate all of my friendships and relationships. This is something that was difficult but very necessary. And not only that, but I took about a 2-month-long break from Instagram. And then I was barely getting on Facebook. Like if I saw something negative, I would just shut it down. But I would mostly just get on Facebook for a few minutes throughout the day for my support groups, and then I guess just to share updates on quarantine life, mostly for Animal Crossing memes though. Animal Crossing actually has been something that sounds silly to say, but it's honestly just made such a big difference on my mental health. When my husband first started to notice how depressed I was, he was trying like really hard to find a Switch because they were all sold out everywhere. So he ended up actually calling his sister in California, and she went and bought the last one at the Target near her and mailed it to us so that I could play Animal Crossing. So I'm super grateful for both of them. I know that I'm definitely going to have more challenges than the average person when it comes to school, but I think that my passion for nursing is truly going to get me through this. So yeah, I've been nannying the past couple weeks, and I start nursing school in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It's insane. I actually got my acceptance letter back in early March. So since then, I was slowly accumulating different supplies for nursing school. And at this point, it really seemed like by my July start date, coronavirus would like blow over a little bit and we might get more of a sense of normalcy back, and I would be able to physically be in class and physically go into lab and physically go into clinicals. But unfortunately in Texas, it's actually gotten dramatically worse the past week or so. So it is going to be mainly online, I believe, until at least second term. So I guess I'll be home on my laptop with all my supplies, with my nerdy rolling backpack that I'm not going to be able to take anywhere. But yeah, I watched one of my old videos on mental health from a year ago, and it's just super refreshing to see how much my life has changed from then, and seeing the pain in my eyes and just knowing that I don't have that anymore. And also even looking back the past few months on how much of a difference cutting down on social media, taking out, you know, my entire friends list on Facebook, my entire friends list on Instagram. It took me like 3 hours just to get down to the small amount of people that I have now. That's just made such a huge impact on me. Really trying to still stay aware on what's going on in our world and in my country, but at the same time I'm really trying to focus on the positive and focus on, you know, who's been here for me. So I'm going to continue trying not to be on social media as much and maybe focus that attention elsewhere, possibly Animal Crossing. But anyways, thank you if you stuck around throughout this entire video. I will be posting another video later on this week, and hopefully I'll be taking you guys with me throughout my nursing school journey. But anyways, I'm rambling again, so have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.